Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good morning. Welcome. Another Sunday morning here. God, it's already January 3rd, 2021. Years going by already, man. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sitting back here. I'm enjoying a nice cup of coffee here. Got my All Might mug here. Let's see. Let's get that right in the picture, right? Gotta get this in here to go beyond and kick the day's ass. Remember, folks, every day is International Ass Kicking Day. It's your opportunity to go out there and become a little better than you were the day before. And, of course, just dominate the day to the best of your ability. So I wanted to go over this particular story here because you guys ever take a look at a story and it just makes you laugh because you know it's the source basically is pushing a particular narrative, and that narrative is completely unrealistic. And I'll pull up a story here in a minute from Newsmax of all sources, but the story itself was written as an opinion piece written by Lanny Davis. For those of you guys that don't know, Lanny Davis, he's pretty much a political opportunist. He is basically crisis management is what he is. Now, I know Donald Trump used him, I believe, in the God, I forget whose case it was he was representing, but the guy will do whatever he's got to do to make his money. All right, we'll get into that story here in just a minute, but if you guys want to do me a favor, please make sure you guys like, share, subscribe these episodes here. This is probably the most popular way, the best way that you can help this channel grow. And if you guys could do me that solid, I would greatly appreciate that. So let's get into the news here. First, we're going to go ahead and take down the overlay. Let's pop this up here. So Newsmax reports here that, according to Lanny Davis, that Joe Biden is going to be the one who can, if you can believe this, unite Trump voters and progressives. Now, I'm not buying this, but I'll give you my take on this here in a minute. Mr. Davis here writes, and this column was originally printed in The Hill back on December 31st, but he wrote that on November 6th of 68, Nixon declared victory in a narrow win over then Vice President Hubert Humphrey, with a margin of less than 1% and little more than 500,000 votes out of 85 million cast. The nation seemed irreparably divided ideologically, culturally, generationally. During his victory speech that night, Nixon recalled seeing a hand-scrawled sign, "Bring us together," during an early evening rally in a small town of Deschler, Ohio. Nixon later invited the youngster who held the sign, 13-year-old Vicki Lynn Cole, to attend the inauguration on January 20th of 69 and to ride in a special float in the inaugural parade. Unfortunately, Nixon quickly returned to his default position, didn't refer to the sign in his inauguration speech, and governed as president much as Donald Trump has, by exacerbating America's divisions rather than healing them. Now comes President-elect Biden, facing perhaps worse divisions than Nixon, fueled by a chasm of red state, blue state voters with hate on both sides. Can he possibly bring us together? The answer is yes. I've known Biden since early 1973, his first months as Delaware's then new senator. I know he cannot do so by reinventing himself, but by being Joe Biden. I don't know, being Joe Biden, I think, would be like the worst idea you can give somebody. For 36 years before he became vice president, Biden represented a state made up largely of conservative, rural, working-class voters. When he was a kid, he lived in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Scranton! With mostly white, non-college educated, working-class neighbors, many of whom voted for Trump in 2016 but switched to Biden in 2020. Well, that's suspect right there. Biden can cover by reminding us of 4 issues you campaign on that can bridge the gap, not by ignoring the differences among people with deep feelings, but by reminding them that they can act in their self-interest and in common with those with different political views. So Davis breaks down it like this here. First, he says that Biden has to work on the pandemic. Biden must immediately nullify the false Trumpian choice of denying science, ignoring COVID pandemic, versus opening the economy and putting people back to work. Biden could show us a third way. He can prove that we can follow both the science e.g., masking, social distancing, massive distribution vaccines, while still reopening our economy and our schools in a safely, step by step. Second, Biden can prove that the fight to address climate change and save our planet is also about creating tens of millions of jobs in energy renewable industries in solar, wind, and geothermal hydroelectric generation and other technologies. So, yeah, that would be interesting considering you need oil to run the vast majority of these things. Third, Biden should propose a national Marshall Plan. If you guys remember the Marshall Plan was just basically you would go, well, in Germany in particular, which was devastated after World War II, basically we rebuilt their infrastructure. Well, Davis here is proposing doing it on an internal level here with the idea of public-private partnerships and rebuilding infrastructure, something Trump has talked about at length. And then his final point here, finally, most important, Biden needs to stand for guaranteed affordable national health care. Most polls show remarkable majority support for exactly what Biden proposed in his campaign, a step-by-step approach. On Obamacare, provide a public option and then fix it. On Medicare, expand it, as many Trump-leaning rural areas need and want. On Medicare, expand it as progressives want, with the goal of Medicare for all, similar to every Western democracy in the world, except for the U.S. And all this can be done without nearly necessarily abolishing individual choice for Americans if they wish to use their own doctors and continue to use their private insurance plans. It doesn't have to be Trump's policy of division or politics of division. It doesn't have to be Washington's too common partisan gridlock. There is a third way, Joe Biden's way. In the final analysis, Biden should remind us that the late Representative Elijah Cummings of Maryland had it exactly right when he declared, "We are better than this," or the words of his friend, President Obama, who he served so well as vice president. Yes, we can. All right. A few things I want to dissect here. You know what? I'm going to put that back up because I'm going to go back to this here several times. For the last 4 years, probably more, all we have heard from the left is this mantra of he's not our president, orange man bad, you're leaving the White House one way or the other, just absurdity and false charges beyond belief. Everything from the Russian dossier to the Mueller probe to the false impeachment, all of this just absolutely ridiculous. And now you're going to come out here and make calls for unity. Isn't that kind of akin to the battered wife who's ready to leave, who's been beaten, who's been broken physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and the husband says, "You know what? We gotta stick together. We're a family. We gotta stick together. You know I'm gonna do right by you." Never mind the fact that he just whooped her ass and sent her to the hospital last week, right? I feel like that's what we're dealing with here, and the American people have been the battered wife. Because all we have heard from the left is, again, you're a homophobe, you're xenophobe, you're this, you're that, every negative pejorative under the sun. And then we have been literally and figuratively beaten by the likes of BLM, Antifa, and other radical leftists. And this agenda that they're pushing here and that Davis writes in this article is absolutely absurd. I mean, let's go ahead and break this down step by step here. But, if you take a look at Joe Biden's pandemic plan, it is identical for that of President Trump. The only difference that you're seeing right now is that when Joe Biden or any of his surrogates come out and speak on the pandemic as it relates to President Trump, it is to criticize Trump, but not the plan itself. He's not doing it fast enough. Well, he's not the one necessarily handing it out personally. So it's absolutely ridiculous to hear that. And Biden himself, along with his advisors, have talked about, 100 days of masks, nationwide lockdowns. This has been proven not to work. As a matter of fact, what it has been proven to do is literally crush economies. Did a video on this last night. Take a look at what's going on with your small businesses. I'm talking your bars, your restaurants, your small little boutique stores, your little mom and pop stores all over the country. These places are being decimated on a level that we have never seen before in this country. But yet, you know, you want to talk about reopening the economy, then reopen the damn economy. Stop playing around. If people want to wear masks, they're going to wear masks. If they don't, leave them the hell alone. I think as Americans, we generally like to have a social distance anyway of anywhere between 3 and 6 feet. I don't think you're going to have a problem there. As far as vaccines, again, if people want them, let them do them. If they don't, that's fine too. I mean, not everybody takes a flu shot every year. I sure as hell don't. So what? We're going to make this mandatory now? Something so invasive? Something seems very wrong about that. Biden talks about climate change. Again, this is one of those things that just really frustrates the hell out of me here. When they talk about, especially from the left, that it's settled science. I'm sorry. If you're on the left and you're talking about settled science, you've already lost the argument. Now, am I saying that climate change is not real? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying climate change is not real. I'm telling you it's weather. You have changes in the climate every single year, every single day. This is facts. And if you think that humanity has enough stroke on this planet to alter the heat and everything short of a full-on nuclear war, to change the climate to that degree in such a short amount of time, or you think more, you think, well, it's a pipe dream, really. But even if, let's just say there was some credence to this, you cannot tell me that this is settled science. Anybody on the left that says the word settled science, you're losing the argument right away because, number one, you know, when a baby is born at 9 months, that's a human being. But yet they want to go ahead and argue the right to abortion even up until that point. They like to argue that there's like 452 different genders. You can't tell the difference between a man and a woman, and you're going to sit here and talk to us about settled science? That's a GTFO right there. But if you want to talk about here what you're going to do to grow the economy for alternative energies, hey, you know what? Let's make it a little more feasible. Let the technology work itself out. Let the companies like, you know, Tesla do its thing for the electric cars and everything else. If you let that happen, the need for fossil fuels will eventually decline. Dissipate? I don't think so. Oil is always going to be a necessity. There's no doubt about that. But this idea of solar farms and all this other stuff, how many birds, bats, and other things are going to die as a result of those turbines and those blades just spinning in the air? But, you know, no, never mind to that. Or the vast swaths of land that are going to be occupied by that could be used for, I don't know, growing food. Just a thought there. Biden talks about this internal Marshall Plan, and I actually would agree with that to a certain extent. There are things, and Trump has talked about this, our crumbling infrastructure, everything from Wi-Fi, which was in that horrendous omnibus bill, to rural areas, to the interstate highways, and many other things that need to be done, roads, bridges, and the same. There is a lot that needs to be done, but I think part of what can be solved on that is just getting good bids, not the lowest bidder, but good bids. And then, of course, you got his fourth point in here where he talks about Medicare for all. Well, we know that's going to be a failed system. That's, if you were to compare what your health plan was back in 2008, 2010 versus what it is today, it is literally night and day. I miss my Cadillac plan. But here's the thing. None of this, and I literally mean none of this, is going to unite Trump supporters, Trump voters, and progressives. Because none of them have anything in common. There is no commonality. So what do I mean by this? Your average Trump supporter, your average Trump, the Trump base, this is a group of people that generally just want to be left alone. Leave me alone. Let me make my money. Let me take care of my family. Let me take care of my community. Let me do what I need to do, and I will do it better than you can. However, on the left, you got the big brother crowd. You got the cradle to grave. We're going to take care of you. Government is your daddy. And the progressives, boy, they are pushing and pushing this. And it really does ignore a huge group of people in the middle. Your typical liberals, your typical conservatives, your middle of the road type people, your independents. You're not getting the Trumps to this exorbitant spending in climate change. You might get them on board on infrastructure, but you ain't getting them on board to, having government control your health care. We know how well government does when it comes to anything. Mail, getting a refund, having just the ability to talk to somebody if you have some issue going on, whether it be state or federal government. We know how well that doesn't work. Why the hell would anybody want their health care being managed by a government bureaucracy that, well, essentially exists to support itself, that exists to justify why it should get a paycheck every 2 weeks? Charles, how are you, sir? Good to see you this morning. This idea of getting Trump supporters and progressives to unite behind Biden is probably a pipe dream at best. And honestly, when you really think about it, I do think that Biden at some level does want to unite people. However, I think part of it is because of his age. Part of it is because of his declining mental state. And part of it is I think he just wants to be president, even if it's just for a day. I don't think Biden ultimately cares at this point. Biden is a puppet, nothing more. And their idea of calls to unity, despite all their calls of venom and vitriol and hatred, the so-called party of love, all they are going to do at this point is try to browbeat and gaslight folks into submission. This idea that you need to unite with us, or there's going to be truth and reconciliation commissions coming to you. Unity, I think we're far past that. They missed that opportunity. They could have had that opportunity in 2016, even if you disagreed with President Trump and his policies, but they took it to another level. It was nothing but violence. It was nothing but hate. Excuse me. It was nothing but condemnation for a duly elected president. And now you want to call for unity. I don't think so. Ah, goodness. It's good times, isn't it? Thank you, Charles. I will definitely do that. Charles mentions here in the chat room, it's like just another wonderful day in paradise. Keep up the good work, young man. God, my back and my knees tell me I'm not so young anymore. It's one of those things where you wonder how you managed the abuse in your 20s. Long stories on that one, though. But all right, guys, I'm going to close it out here. I'll probably have some more content out later this afternoon. I'm going to repurpose this onto the podcast for the Caramel Conservative Podcast on Spreaker.com. And I will also have other content coming out here. I got some stuff going on with the pronouns that the House of Representatives is looking to do. We've got law enforcement. Actually, I'm not going to call it law enforcement anymore. Anytime I see stories like this, just a preview of one of my next stories. Hunters detained after super spreader task force shuts down New Year's Eve party across Los Angeles. That's not law enforcement anymore. Those are oath breakers that are out there doing this. We'll talk about that more probably in the next segment. But until then, I'll talk to you guys later on. I'm out.